to What is Truth? Brought to you by the Southern New Mexico Church of God in Las Cruces, New Mexico. What is Truth is a weekly program which seeks to focus our attention on the truth of God's Word. Now, with this week's lesson, here's Pastor Meyer Stahl.
Welcome to the program. My guest today is Dr. David Tofsted. He was a research physicist for 36 years at the U.S. Army Research Laboratory at White Sands Missile Range. Welcome to the program, Dave.
Thank you, Meyer. Glad to be here.
Okay, but Dave, before we get started, I want to offer to the audience two very important booklets. What kind of faith is required for salvation? And the second booklet is What Do You Mean Salvation? These are our two salvation booklets. Read them. They're free. You could also have a DVD of this program for free. We have nothing to sell on the program. So Dave, let me start with you. Let's ask you the important question about our topic today. Our topic today is this issue of the update of the New Mexico Science Standards. It's called STEM, New Mexico STEM Ready Science Standards. It stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
And these STEM standards, they're pretty important because it's going to set up the education of our children for the next probably 5-6 years.
Okay, let me ask you something. You know, we care for our children's future. We care for our grandchildren. I have 2 grandchildren, and I may have some great-grandchildren coming along one day. If we run a business, we care about our employees, and we hope to have better jobs in New Mexico. After all, we're all paying taxes, and we want to be careful of how our tax money is being spent. Doesn't everybody care about the way their tax money is spent?
Absolutely, and everybody should have a voice in it.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about science in the schools. So tell us a little bit about what you did out there at White Sands.
Well, our group was part of an atmospheric study group, and we looked at atmospheric effects on the Army systems, electro-optical systems mainly, in terms of, you know, you look over a hot car roof and you see the distortions of distant objects. So we tried to characterize that and fix it, and we also looked at scattering of fogs and haze on the sensors and how it impacted the sensors. So the whole career was basically geared towards STEM, science, technology, engineering, math.
Well, it's important. Now, Dave, I understand that New Mexico's Public Education Department, or PED, has drafted up a revised set of science standards. What is it about these standards that's causing such a controversy?
Well, the issue is that these standards were updates, but really it's trying to follow what's called the next generation science standards. And those were developed by a number of states, but basically the issue is, do we go with the full set of NGSS, next generation science standards, or do we go with a reduced set, or do we go with something else?
Okay, is it that bad? What exactly is the NGSS?
Well, the next generation science standards, if you think about it, Common Core introduced standards for the math and the English subjects. And what the NGSS does is it basically is it's the next generation of Common Core, if you think about it, that is trying to come up with these blanket solutions and apply it throughout the states.
Well, what is it about the NGSS that is the problem? What is the exact problem?
Well, see, the problem is twofold. It's number one, what's in the NGSS, which is a lot of what you can think of as evolution training, starting at kindergarten and then going through elementary, middle school, and high school. So it attempts to essentially indoctrinate our students in evolution and climate change. And then in addition to that, there are a whole bunch of things that are not in the standards. And see, here's what happened when we adopted Common Core. It was supposed to fix and make our schools so much better. Well, we've got 20% proficiency in English this year. We've got 29% proficiency in math throughout our schools, and we're rated as the 46th state in the country in terms of our high school performance. So there's something wrong with the school systems, and this NGSS seems to be making it worse.
Oh, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. That can't be a good thing, right? Can't possibly be.
Well, I can't see how it is a good thing. And what you've got is you've got voices, mainly on the left, who are saying Bill McCamley and Andres Romero, who were state reps, they tried to put in a bill to force New Mexico to adopt the full standards. Now, their bill was vetoed by Susana Martinez, but now they're trying to push, and there's all these groups like the public schools and the teachers unions and various groups around the state who are saying, oh no, we've got to adopt the full standards. So it's turned into this political war in a way. Yeah.
So this comment period, can anyone send in a comment, and how would you do that?
Okay. So the comment period is they put together a draft set of standards, and essentially they took the full NGSS and they took out a bunch of pieces, and then they packaged it and they put it out for comments. And so the comment period runs through this coming Monday at 5 p.m. And so it's a really short time scale. But you can email to rule.feedback@state.nm.us, and they will take your comment. And you can also go online and do a search on Google and put in New Mexico STEM Ready Science Standards and say PED feedback, and it'll pop up that same it'll pop up the web page. It'll also give you the notice that says that they're asking for comments, and you can also find the full standards. What you will find in those standards is that they've pulled out a lot of the creation. Not creation. A lot of the evolution and the age of the earth and climate change things from the elementary and kindergarten and some of the middle school, but they've left a lot of pieces in there from the high school and the middle school as well.
Wow. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Why should there be a problem with teaching young children about evolution and climate change? After all, this is science, isn't it?
Well, when you look at science and what it is, what you have to ask is, if you're going to have children in the classroom, like in McCamley's and Romero's letter, what they said was, hey, this is going to be hands-on, and it's not going to be rote memorization, and it's just going to be children doing things, right? Well, you ask yourself, well, how can you test something that happened millions of years ago? How can you test climate change that's going to happen 100 years from now? So really, there's no way to test this. You're not able to test evolution or the age of the earth or climate change. But then there's things that are not in the standards. So you say, well, what's going on here? Why are we not able to actually get hands-on things, but you're going to have us learning this stuff, which is going to amount to indoctrination and rote memorization? How can it be other than that?
Well, it sounds like atheism to me. Isn't atheism a lack of religion?
Yeah. Well, the question is, what is the... If you were an atheist and you said, okay, there is no God, so what is religion? Religion is connecting back to your origins, and so you have to ask, well, what is atheism? And if what is atheism except connecting to the earth and to the universe and to your origins, which can't involve God? And so therefore that's basically what we end up teaching is all the tenets of atheism in the classroom.
I follow that. Well, yeah, if this is the way the universe works, how can you object to science?
Well, my problem is with atheism is that it has certain things that it says that must be true. The atheist claims that the universe began by itself and cannot involve God. In fact, it asserts that God does not exist, right? Well, may we have to finish this after the break, right?
Well, we can.
Or not. Or we can or not.
We can.
It doesn't matter. But, yeah. Okay. So, is that a good break point or not?
Let's take a break. We'll be right back very soon. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
Hey, Grandpa, come play catch.
Don't
you want to play catch with me?
I want to, but my back doesn't. It hurts so bad I can barely... Oh.
Has this ever happened to you? You could qualify for a pain-relieving back brace at little or no cost to you. Call the Pain Relief Hotline now.
Catch it!
Wow, Grandpa, it's going so high.
Call the Pain Relief Hotline now to get your pain-relieving back brace.
Welcome back to the program. Our guest today is Dr. David Tofsted. If you tuned in late, we're talking about education in the schools today. It's important to everybody. And Dave, I have to ask you this question. If this is the way the universe works, the last question I asked you, how can you object to science?
Right, and I was trying to, there wasn't enough time to get through it, but for example, here's a picture of a universe or a galaxy, and it's behind a star here. And so what this shows an example of what Einstein predicted back in 1915 when he came up with his general relativity theory. He said that light curves, it follows straight paths in space, but space is actually curved. And so in this case, this is a Hubble shot of a galaxy, and you can see the curved shape of this galaxy because the light is curving around this star in the middle. Now, the problem that the atheist has is this. You see, if we live in curved space, not in flat space, then curved space implies that there's another dimension or perhaps several dimensions. In fact, string theory says there's maybe 20 dimensions. There's at least one more, though, because of what Einstein saw. And so here we have the known universe. It's sort of our 3D universe, but now there's an unknowable hyperverse that goes in another direction. And so the atheist mindset says, not only do I not see God here, I don't see God anywhere. But obviously the atheist position is not supportable based on science. And what we see in terms of life, here's a picture of, we know all about DNA, right? And what you see in DNA is there's this coding system where you need there's 4 molecules, A, T, G, and C, and they're called adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. And those are the only 4 molecules that tells how you code up the DNA. But from those 4 molecules, you have instructions for 20 different amino acids, plus a start instruction and a stop instruction. So that's 22 instructions. But there's only 4 there's only 4 codes. So you need 3, because 1 gives you 4, 2 gives you 16, and 3 gives you up to 64, but it's 22 is more than 16. So you need 3 of these letter molecules per codon, and that's what they're called, to specify what your protein is. Now, inside the nucleus, you have this thing called RNA polymerase, and let me get it in the frame there. An RNA polymerase is a molecule that reads the DNA and creates a copy called RNA, and that gets sent outside the nucleus. And then from that, once that RNA comes outside the nucleus, it gets read, or it gets passed into, like a ticker tape machine, into this ribosomal RNA, and then transfer RNAs come along and bring along the pieces of the amino acids that create the proteins. But the problem is that, so you have these sets of 3, and you have these molecules, but the codes for those molecules are sitting on the DNA. So those molecules only work with the sets of 3 codes that tells it how to build the proteins, but the instructions for those builders or readers are sitting right on the DNA. So the system is what we call mode locked. It can't evolve. And so they don't teach this in the schools, but they've sort of glossed over it because there's plenty of mentions of DNA, but nothing about either of these 2 topics. So the fact is, we've got a problem. There's pieces that are missing.
Okay, so we talked about the issues related to evolution, but as far as the age of the earth, we know that Genesis 1, verse 1, does not say in the beginning, because the word the is not in the Hebrew. It's the Hebrew word bereshis, means in a beginning. So the earth could be very old, and the universe could be very old too. Right. Isn't that right? That's right.
Exactly. So there's issues of things that never got into the standards, or that get in there and are wasting a lot of time. And then there are these other issues like mechanical advantage. And they mention engineering, but there's no engines talked about. There's nothing about jet engines or ramjets or turboprops or aeronautics. They don't even mention thrust and drag and space flight or pendulums or springs, the kinds of things that are the basic knowledge that you need to have to do science, like harmonic motion, chemistry labs, simple geology like different types of rocks, sedimentary, igneous, metamorphic rocks. So there's all these aspects of the problem that never get into the standards, but there's so many pieces that are added in that acts like indoctrination.
So these proposed standards include these sorts of discussions? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So the proposed standards, are sort of a stalking horse, because they're the companies that are going to provide the materials for the textbooks are the same ones that do the textbooks for the full NGSS standards. And so the transition from the standards that are written to the full NGSS is probably minimal, and that's the issue.
All right, we're going to show on the screen. Here's the email address. Why don't you get ready a comment? The comment has to be in by Monday, this coming Monday at 5 p.m. It has to be in before 5 p.m. If you have a comment to make about this STEM-ready situation, how they're spending our money, how they're educating our children, we've got to take an interest in this. Would you not agree, Dave?
I've already submitted my comments, and
well, I'm going to submit mine also. So, folks, we need to make sure our money is being spent wisely.
Right.
And if we don't, they're liable to give us teach our children things that we don't want them to learn. It's not going to benefit them.
Right.
So we need to benefit them. And why don't you copy down this email address? And what else can we do, Dave?
Well, it's probably not over even after Monday. That's Monday the 18th of October. So it's probably not over. It's probably going to continue to come back, and let people know that you know. And
okay, Dave,
there'll be further debate on it, I'm sure.
Dave, I'd like to invite you back to another time when you're available. In the meantime, why don't you folks call us. Send away for this What Do You Mean Salvation booklet, and what kind of faith is required for salvation? Why don't you also ask for a DVD of this program that you could play it at home, watch it for yourself, take an interest in what our students are learning today. We need to be sure that our money is being well spent for good purposes.
Absolutely.
Okay, Dave, it's a pleasure having you on the program.
Nice to be here, Meyer.
Please come back.
Okay. I'll look forward to it.
Until next time, this is Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God saying goodbye, my friends.
You have been listening to What is Truth with Pastor Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico. For copies of today's lesson or for more information, call area code 575-650-7359. That's 575-650-7359. Join us next week at this same time for another edition of What is Truth. Until next week, we wish you God's richest blessings.